All right, good morning. Happy Monday. Today is December 20th. Welcome to another weekly update on my awesome, cool, well, just kidding, on my Facebook page. If you are watching this on YouTube, welcome to the YouTube channel. Each week we go live here in this show and bring you as much news and cool articles as I can about what's happening in the Twin Cities. Obviously, a big focus on real estate, but try to sprinkle in some other topics and food and beverage news and that sort of stuff. I'm just going to go out and say, today is December 20th. It's a quiet time in the markets. When I get into the actual numbers, you guys are going to see there's not a ton of new inventory that came on. But the stuff that is on the market is still going pretty quick. So people are still in the mood to buy. It's still a good time to buy. It's just really slow right now with Christmas coming up and New Year's. And just generally speaking, there's not that much happening in the news right now. There's a couple big things, but we've been talking about those big things for weeks now. And it's that time of the year. Just people calm down, get quiet, get ready for holidays, have parties, hang out, try to spend time with family. So this will probably be a little shorter today, but I still want to make sure that you guys are updated and know what's happening. So with that being said, let's jump into the numbers. So quick look at the market for the last week. I'll zoom in a little bit. Might be a little easier for you guys to see. What's up, Casper? Shout out to Casper. Casper just joined us live here on the show. Casper's in the Philippines, and if anybody saw the typhoon that hit, I know one of the mayors of one of the islands said it was the worst typhoon he's seen in 100 years, I think. So Casper, super happy to see you here this morning and glad that you're doing good and everything's okay with you out there. Prayers to your friends and family and anyone else affected by the typhoons over there. So back to Minnesota, the Twin Cities in particular, weekly new inventory. So we had 242 new single family houses come on the market last week. You could see the trend. It's pretty clear. Average for the last 13 weeks is 470 new listings. So down quite a bit. Next week is going to be way lower. The week after will also be lower with the New Year's. But median price point for the 242 new listings that did come on the market was $370,000. That's up quite a bit from what we have been seeing. Median price point in the Twin Cities was about $360,000 for the last couple of months. So what is coming on the market in the last few weeks here of the year is priced a little bit higher than what we have been seeing. Homes that went to pending last week, we're at the same, look at that, 366 and 366. So it's right around 350 to 400 houses that are going to pending, which, I've talked about this last couple of weeks when new inventory is only 250-ish houses, but houses that are going to pending is 360. Well, that means that we have less and less property available on the market, and that continues to happen. Closed transactions, we had almost 500 closed transactions last week, which is pretty close to what the average has been for the last 13 weeks. When you look at total inventory in the Twin Cities right now, again, this is single family houses. There's only 1,970 homes available only, but we were 3,000 houses on the market throughout the course of the summer. So, you could see how big of a difference it is right now in this time of the year. Which leads me to days on market. The stuff that is coming on the market that's priced right and that looks great, just like, we've been saying for many months now, those houses are going quick. And if it's not priced right, and if it doesn't, show well, it's sitting on the market much longer than it has at any point this year. So last week, median days on market was 46 for your average house in the Twin Cities, which is obviously, the chart speaks for itself. It's almost double what it was just in September. So my big takeaway, if you're going to list a house right now, list it, price it right, and make sure that it shows well and that it's available for showings, because people that want to buy quick. Here's our numbers in particular for the DeRoche team. Our median days on market's only 13. Our average is only 28. We have these conversations with our clients every time. Make sure that you Well, first of all, let's make sure we know what you want. If you're fine with it sitting on the market and you just want to get top dollar, that's a different conversation. But most people just want to get it sold and sell it. So there's things we can do to make that happen. And then we like to track our houses at the end of the day selling for more than what they're listed at. Yeah, that trend is continuing. So on average, I can show you the real numbers. For the houses that sold last week, median price point for the houses that came on the market, for the ones that of these 500 and some transactions that sold, median price point was $365,000. The house ended up selling median price sales point of $369,950. So all that is to say is, it's not as crazy as it was. I keep saying this. 6 months ago was really a different story. Houses were selling way over list price. They still are right now. It's just not as intense. So that is the market. That's what we're seeing in the numbers. Shifting gears and getting into what news articles I could find for everybody. I want to start out with something, really blow your mind. So there was a house in San Francisco that just sold for $1 million over the asking price. This home, so they bought it 2 years ago for $1.4 million, and they just sold it for $3.5. $1 million over their list price of $2.5, and in 3 days. So California has always been a weird market. San Francisco in particular, when the recession hit in 2008, 2009, San Francisco got crushed. Real estate prices just fell off a cliff, but it also came back fairly quickly, and San Francisco has always been known as an expensive city. This is the inside pictures of this house that sold. It looks awesome. I could see why somebody would want to pay top dollar. You're up on a hill, you got a nice view. I'm sure it's beautiful inside, but $1 million over list price, that's crazy. So there are a couple topics. Although I said it's a fairly quiet week, there were a couple of things that I thought were worth digging into a little bit. I've talked about rent control a little bit, and the fact that the November elections that just happened, both Minneapolis and St. Paul paved the way to have rent control. There was an article in the Star Tribune that just started talking about, well, first of all, St. Paul's rent control, it's in place. They have a policy. They know what it is. Minneapolis's policy is the city council is going to develop the policy. And so the incoming city council is starting to get questions from the media and from, residents of the city. What are you going to do? What does rent control look like? And so there's seems to be some, a bit of a divide right now between the city council on do we want to be really strict with this, or do we not want to be, or less strict, I guess, than St. Paul. St. Paul's policy is one of the strictest rent control policies in the entire country. In the article in the Star Tribune, it calls it out right here. So the max rent increase in the city of St. Paul in any rental is 3% annually, and there is no exemption in the policy for new construction or inflation. So I talked about inflation, I think last week. Inflation numbers for the country were released last week. It was 6% inflation in the month of November. That directly impacts, cost of materials and cost of goods for rental properties. If I need to buy a new appliance, the kitchen, the fridge breaks. And if I have to get a new fridge, and we're in this crazy inflationary market where a fridge used to be, $500 and now it's $600. A stove used to be $400 and now it's $500. Everything that you need to buy to put into your rentals in an inflation market's going up, right? Getting people to come fix and service your property is getting more expensive. And so as a rental owner, you have a lot of expenses that come with having a nice, good furnished place for your tenants. Well, if you are never allowed to react to inflation, it gets a lot harder to make the financials work on rentals. So usually rent control has some sort of inflationary protection built in. New construction is usually exempt. Usually new construction in a lot of the rent control policies in other cities, new construction can kind of set its own rent threshold. In St. Paul, it can't. So basically the problem with the St. Paul one that people don't like about it is it's very strict, and there's nothing built into it that allows for any flexibility when the market goes crazy, which causes people to have cold feet to build. We talked about Ryan Company has developments that are on hold. We know we need affordable housing, but you have major development companies that are now saying, I don't know how to deal with this rent control thing. I don't know how my finances are going to look over the next 3 to 5 years in the projections. Time out. So as Minneapolis starts to figure out what are they going to do, I just would really urge everybody to understand more about rent control, understand the policies, and understand what you want in place for the city to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do, which is protect renters, but in a way that still allows investors to do what they do, which is provide investments, and be able to keep up with expenses and that sort of stuff. The last article or the last paragraph in the Star Tribune's article is this quote from the co-director of Renters United for Justice. Basically, she's saying, we don't need more studies. Those have been done. We need to produce the policy. And I would just really strongly urge everyone, okay, if there are studies that you're looking at, share it with everybody so we know, because I've looked at rent control. I've never seen it work. Or it doesn't work as intended in most places. So make sure you guys are looking at good studies that are really modeling off of a policy in a city that you guys think it's correct and working how it's supposed to. Share those with the public so we know what is happening and we can all be informed in how this works versus just putting a policy in place to put a policy in place. That's enough on rent control. I'm sure I'll talk more about it at another point. But this was kind of exciting to see. So St. Paul and Ramsey County are investing $74 million in affordable housing under a new plan that the city and the county came up with last week. So St. Paul is going to commit $37.5 million. Ramsey County is going to commit another $37 million. And most of this is going to go to affordable housing. We need affordable housing. A story I did last week talked about a new modular apartment that went up in St. Paul. If we have those types of building materials and capabilities coming even quicker, right? There's a shortage and it's hard to build right now, but modular is good and it can be good and it can be a lot cheaper. That $74 million can go really far if the plan is to really get good affordable housing in place. They're talking somewhere around 1,000 units coming in St. Paul. And I think it's about 300. Yeah, they're saying 300 new existing units that will be built in the rest of Ramsey County. 1,300 new affordable housing units is desperately needed. I think that's projected that there's 15,000. There's a shortfall of 15,000 units right now for affordable housing. So this is not going to take care of the issue, but it will certainly help quite a bit. Back to what I was talking about with rent control. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it anymore, but you could see how rent control could have a huge impact here, where $74 million of development is a lot of development. You need to make sure that you're building the right things that are going to get the right rent to return the returns that need to be returned so that people will want to build and invest and start to tackle this problem of affordable housing. So I think it's exciting. 74 million is a huge number. Be interesting to see if Hennepin County or Minneapolis tries to do something similar. And, it's affordable housing is needed everywhere. That all being said, we'll end on taxes because nothing's ever free, right? So these policies that are being put in place, like I said earlier, think through them, make sure that they're being done in the best interest of everybody and not missing out on what they're intended to do. Well, it always costs money to do these policies, right? So another article in the Star Tribune talking about property taxes. They're increasing. So taxes are going up throughout most places in the Twin Cities to fund some of these policies and to make some of these things happen. What's super interesting to me, so this was in the article, you could download the data and look by city, by county, by school district, what the 2020 median house price point was versus 2021, and then tax implications. So there's a lot of numbers here. If your city is in here, you want your info specifically, let me know. I could shoot it to you. But most of the suburbs, so Eden Prairie, 4% projection, 3% increase in taxes. Bloomington, much higher, 8. Lakeville low, Inver Grove Heights low, Egan super low, Burnsville low, even Orono's fairly low. Plymouth, getting close or a little bit higher. Then you get to Ramsey County, which is really interesting. So I just said Ramsey County is doing, this giant investment in affordable housing, but Ramsey County, most of the cities have less taxes coming in, except for St. Paul. St. Paul is going to be the largest projected city to raise property taxes, projected at 11% increase in taxes next year. Minneapolis is not far behind. So it just, I know there were things done last year with 2020 where Minneapolis and St. Paul didn't want to put a bunch of tax increases through, but here we are. It's always going to come back. At some point it's coming, right? So while most cities, with the exception of a couple, have modest tax increases, if you're in Minneapolis or St. Paul, it's double digit in a lot of these neighborhoods and communities. Some of it is because appreciation and the houses are just worth more. And so you're going to have a slightly higher tax bill because of that. But, there's a lot of policies in place in Minneapolis and St. Paul in particular. They got to get paid for somehow, and taxes is usually the way. So, again, my point, make sure you understand what the city councils are putting in place and what the people you're electing into office are going to do, because it costs a lot of money to do a lot of the things that they want to. So that's all I have on Minneapolis real estate tax related stuff. A couple cool fun stories from last week as well. The holiday cookie winners, the Star Tribune takes a bunch of submissions every year of people submitting their best holiday cookie, and this lemon rosemary cream was the winner, which it looks awesome. Sometimes I like when there's some herbs that are introduced to cookies. It definitely makes a different eating experience, and I kind of want to try to make these. But the buttery blueberry buttons looked great. There was a malted milk ball cookie that looked great. There was a tiramisu cookie, which sounded super interesting. I'm not a great baker, but sometimes I like to give it a shot. But yeah, check out the article. There were, I think, 5 or 6 recipes in the Star Tribune that the Star Tribune bakers baked and tried and voted on, and those are the top 3. Land O'Lakes, if you guys are interested in baking and want more ideas of cookies and holiday things, I know Land O'Lakes has a really nice holiday baking website to get more inspiration. And then the last thing, this is kind of a fun event that it's been going on for a few years now. It's called the Great Northern, and there's a food component, but there's a lot of other just learning things about, well, here, this is what it's about. Celebrates our cold creative winters through 10 days of diverse programming that invigorate mind and body. So there's music, there's thought leaders, there's sauna experiences, there's food events. Amanda, my wife, and I went to the launch party, I think when it first started 4 or 5 years ago, and it was really fun. It was in St. Anthony somewhere, and we walked around and tried a bunch of food and had, there's some beverage. I don't remember if it was wine or beer or what it was, but it's kind of a cool experience. So I wanted to throw that out to everybody and take a look at this website, the Great Northern. Check it out. There's tons of activities and lots of stuff to do. We always talk about winter being cold and hard in Minnesota, and yeah, it's cold, but there's a lot of really cool, fun stuff to do and celebrate. And, this event is one of them. So that's all I got. I told you it'd probably be a little shorter today. It is Christmas week. I hope if you guys celebrate Christmas, I hope you guys have a fantastic Christmas this week. And we'll be back next Monday to talk through 4 days of real estate numbers, since it'll be a really short, truncated week this week. Same with next week, and then it'll be New Year's. And then 2022 is here. So crazy. Have a great week, everyone. And until next time, take care.